tea time. How is everybody doing? This is Stacy, your balanced lady boss, and I have some drama for tea time this week. Or let's just call it the tea. My tea this week is personal drama. Last week it was not so much personal drama, it was somebody else's drama. But this week, guys, I have some personal drama for you. And it was a great lesson to be learned, and I can't wait to share this with you. So I'm just going to allow some time for a couple other persons to join. And while that is happening, I'm going to go ahead and get our card ready for the day. I think this morning, like for the last couple of tea times, I haven't really been choosing. I haven't been really picking a card on the spot. I've actually been thinking about tea time ahead and then choosing a card based on the thoughts that I've had. So this morning I figured, let me just start off with choosing a card, and then we'll go into my week that was and talk about just a little bit of the tea from the experience that I had this week. And I think it's a really great lesson for those of you who interact with people. And I'm guessing that since we all interact with people, that hopefully you'll be able to get something out of it. So first things first, I'm going to pull a card. This is actually like half the deck, but let's set an intention. Let's set some affirmations before we get started this morning, guys. We're setting ourselves up for a positive Saturday, for a positive week ahead, despite what may have happened in the last week. And for me, this situation that I'm about to tell you about, my tea, literally just happened yesterday. So, I'm still kind of in the thick of the feeling of it, and I can't wait to share with you. So I'm going to pull a card, and then we'll get right into the tea. All right. So let's see what card we have. Okay. I like this one. It's called I Am a Masterful Creator. I am a masterful creator. So the intention is to be a masterful creator. And then the affirmation, which is at the bottom of the card, says, I contemplate myself. I contemplate myself as surrounded by the circumstances that I intend to create. So what does that mean? It means that you think about yourself. You think about yourself as the person who is experiencing your life in the way you want to experience it. And this is really useful for me, actually, because I feel like yesterday when I got into all this drama, if I was not thinking about myself and thinking about the way that I wanted my experience to be, I would have ended up in a completely different situation. So it's a really good card for today's conversation, because we are masterful creators. We are masterful creators, and we can create the experience that we want by thinking about our surroundings in the way that we want to think about them. Now, I'm going to get into the tea, guys, because the tea this morning is good. What kind of tea you drinking? Are you drinking hot chocolate? You drinking regular tea, peppermint? What is going on? I'm having English breakfast with oat milk and carnation and vanilla and cinnamon and all kind of things. Yeah, I needed my feel good. This is my feel good tea that I had to drink this morning as I was coming on here to tell you all about the tea. So yesterday, I went to the nail salon. I went to the spa to get my nails done. I typically go every other week or whatever, and it's a spa I've been going to for years. So whenever I'm in Jamaica, I go to the same place to do my nails, right? In the States, it's not that simple, but in Jamaica, I go to the same place to do my nails. So I know the technicians very well. Some of the customers, I see them all the time. It's not like I'm unfamiliar or I'm a new person there. They're very used to me. I go there all the time, right? So yesterday I go to do my nails. And one of the things about this spa, which is what I like to go to the nail salon, and I like to do work. I like to catch up, or like it's rare that I'll go and just read a book. That's just not me, right? But it's very regular for me to go and like watch a course, like if I'm doing like a digital course or something like that. And you might do that too. You might have a place where you go and you're sat there for however long, an hour, 2 hours, and you carry your book with you, or you decide that you're going to do some work when you're there, and so you need make sure that they have Wi-Fi, whatever. So catch it now. So I go to my spa. My usual appointment was early in the morning. I had an 8 o'clock appointment. Got there late because I overslept because I was drinking gin and tonic the night before. That's a separate tea time. And I sit down, right, and I'm doing my nails and stuff. And then about 30 minutes or so after, the place is kind of empty. It wasn't as packed as it usually is, but you had one other, I think maybe one other customer sat there to my right, and then you had another customer that was kind of over there doing their nails, and somebody else was, so maybe three or so other customers were in the spa with me, right? And so we're in the spa all together, and then a phone call comes in for me. Right now, my AirPods haven't been working so great, and there was music playing and other people were talking or whatever. So I just started having this conversation with this woman. It was an overseas call, and she was actually calling me because of the summer camp that I did. So those of you who follow me and who have joined Tea Time before today, you would know that I actually just did. I launched this summer a STEM summer camp for girls. I did actually a coding. This year we did coding. And so it was the first year, and it was kind of, a whole vibe because hurricane came and I wasn't sure we were going to be able to have it. So me here in Jamaica with my Jamaica community and my friends from my Atlanta community, because as you know, I stayed, back in between, back and forth, right? We had this summer camp, and it was a very exciting camp. And so this woman calls me because she saw the camp and she was like, boy, I didn't get to participate this year. And so I really want to see if I could support you, what you're doing, what, blah, blah, blah. So I'm here talking to this lady, right? And my nail tech, she's doing my nails, and I'm talking to the lady. And I'll admit the conversation was going on for a little while, but I guess I started to get excited and, the conversation started. So in the middle of the salon, a lady that was sitting down over there, she just started shout after me. Hi, you're too noisy. Can I just tell you that I was taken aback? Now, let me say to you something, guys. I don't like drama. I used to like drama. I used to like drama. I used to love to sit down and gossip with my girlfriends, and you want to hear the latest and the greatest and the whatever, right? But eventually, if you like to entertain drama, right, you're going to have drama in your own life. So imagine my shock and awe in a pleasant spa experience, right? Me chatting away on the phone. This woman literally cussed me off. It was a very succinct cuss off, but it was clear that it was a cuss off, right? She was shouting, one, because I think she maybe felt that she had to shout because I was talking. I don't know if she felt she had to shout, but she shouted at me, and she told me something loud, and she asked me if we can, people trying to da. No, the way the woman carried on in that very short period of time, everybody else was also taken aback. Because, yes, I was in a conversation, but I mean, missus, you're in a one spa. Is it that you are so wound up and needing to release that wind up on somebody? That is the best approach that the person could have thought of. So exactly, so Gemini is saying she loud too. She became loud in order to tell me that I was disturbing her. Now, guys, I'm going to take my 100% responsibility because you know that I come here to talk about mindfulness, right? In that moment, and I will say this honestly, when I was getting ready to go on the call, I was like, should I wear my earpods? Maybe because I don't want to disturb anybody, but because the spa was relatively empty and other people were talking and the music was playing, I was like, okay, it should be all right. And usually my nail tech would tell me, Stacey, a little louder, put on, have your headphones, or, she would say something to me. Let me just tell you something, man. When my lady unleashed not less than 5 minutes, she maybe took 2 minutes to cuss me out tops, right? I was just like, okay. So here is how Stacy responds, because you know that old Stacy would have just been like, then Lord, you have to so loud, missus. Like, or maybe not, because I'm not so great at cussing off in patois. So I'd have probably been like, it's okay, calm down. I'd have probably lashed back immediately. Um, but new Stacy did not immediately respond. I felt bad. Like I did feel like somebody was cussing me off. That initial you feel sick to your stomach, embarrassment, shame. I did feel that in the moment because of how she came at me. And because, like, these are my people. Like, I'm there all the time. And they know that when I'm in the spa, I'm either singing or I will drop asleep or I'll be working, because I'm usually working. So I'm always having meetings. So I would say that the people in the spa are familiar with me. I don't know if they were as familiar with her, maybe. But not only was I embarrassed, but everybody else was also embarrassed because of how she dealt with it. And you could see it. It was like even the music must have did feel like it all stopped, because the place got so quiet and everybody became uncomfortable. Maybe not her nail tech, I'm not so sure. But my nail tech became uncomfortable. You could see it on her face. The other guests, like there was a lady that was in there with me from when I came in, and you could see it on her face how she felt bad, because I'm a pretty pleasant person. And clearly, I wasn't trying to be mean I wasn't trying to be inconsiderate, right? And the way that she came at me, other persons were negatively impacted. Their energy went low, literally, because of how she showed up. No, nobody said anything. Nobody said anything to me. Nobody said anything to her. Everybody just went quiet. All right. So now, if you were in this situation, what would you have done? First of all, let's talk about not me. Let's not talk about me first. If you were in the situation where you go to the spa, you're in a spa, you're trying to do your release and all of the next niceness things, and then you hear this woman over there. What would you have done? Would you have shouted after the person? Hey, hi, you're too loud. You're just talking. You can't turn it down. Would you have taken that approach? That's the approach that this person took with me, right? I mean, I was in shock, because I'm also on the phone with this person. It's a video conversation I'm having. So I'm here now, like, shocked because this woman is shouting at me across the room on the phone with this person that is talking to me about something that is such a feel-good thing. She's congratulating me on this STEM summer camp. And my nails, I do my nails, so several things are happening at the same time. And I'm like, right? So what would you have done if you were her and in her position? Would you have shouted at me? Or would you have asked your nail tech to say something to her, to my nail tech? Asked your nail tech to say something to me, right? Maybe wave from across the room and say, shh. Would you have chosen a more drama-free approach? Because basically, guys, that's what I'm talking about today. I'm talking about the fact that the approach that she took was literally one that could have taken everybody into the drama triangle. As a matter of fact, I think it took everybody into the drama triangle. And I wanted to talk with you today about the drama triangle, the three personalities that we become when we start to feel feelings and we don't know how to interact with other people about the feelings. And then you can examine how you would have become in that situation. So that's the lady. Would you have become like her? Would you have become like me, where you went quiet, where maybe you felt shame or you felt embarrassment? Or would you have just cuss her right back off and start a whole drama, a bigger drama inside of the people them spa? Like, how would you have responded, right? So let's dive into that for a second, okay? So on the drama triangle, there are three distinct roles that you end up playing. And sometimes you sometimes you enter the drama triangle because somebody triggers you, right? Like how this lady triggered me. Or it could just be that this is the way that you're rolling through life and you don't even realize that you're literally stuck on this drama triangle. Thank you so much. Layla says, I love tea time. Girl, me love tea time too because I need some place to talk about this. Okay, so here we go. The three characters on the drama triangle, right? There's victim, there's rescuer, and there's persecutor. Okay, so the victim on the drama triangle is the person that feels oppressed, helpless, and usually blames other people. Okay, a rescuer jumps in to save the day, often neglecting their own needs, putting their own needs behind them. And then the persecutor criticizes or blames others, believing that they must impose control. Right? Now, when you think about what happened to me in the spa with this woman shouting at me across the room, clearly she decided that she needed to persecute me for being noisy in the spa. But in her persecution, she became a problem too, right? So the persecutor insists that it's my fault that there's an experience that you're having, and you may be persecuting other people in your day-to-day. You may not realize it, but just think about it, right? You may be persecuting other people in your day-to-day. You may be criticizing and blaming so that you can maintain a position of superiority, right? Maybe you put rules in place that make other people feel guilty, or maybe other people feel fearful, right? And so one of the things that happens is because you're trying to control a situation, you become more of an antagonist. You become more of somebody that is feeling like they have to issue edicts and rules in order to create control in the situation, right? So in this situation, when you think about the drama triangle, this lady decided to become the villain. She decided to become the persecutor and persecute Stacy because Stacy was on a phone call inside the people in good spa that people come to relax and maybe don't want to hear about your phone call, about your summer camp or whatever you're talking about. So she felt the need to persecute me, not to my face, not just one-on-one. She felt the need to persecute me in front of everybody to make sure that the point was made. And like I felt bad. No, let me just correct that. Did she want to make sure I felt bad? I think so, but I don't know if that was true. I may think so inside. Like in your head, you may think that, right? You just wanted me to feel bad because that's what happened. I felt shame and I felt embarrassment, which is a natural feeling. But then as a result of her being persecutor, everybody else also felt shame. So guess what happened now? We were all pulled into the drama triangle. So it's your drama and it's not my drama. Even though I was the person that was talking on the phone and not realizing that I was neglecting other people's needs, right? I was all caught up, right? It was her drama. And her drama may have been resulting from something completely different. Maybe her entire life is just filled with situations like that, where she feels she has to cuss off people in order to get them to yield or to be, in order to feel control, right? But in her persecution, I fell into victim mode. I felt, oh my gosh, I felt shame and blame, and I felt powerless for a minute. For a minute, I felt powerless because immediately I got to my head, and in my mind, I started to think about how do I deal with this? So let's see what you guys said. Lance says, hi, Damien. I just said wave in my head. Then after acknowledgement, just kindly say you're talking loud in a joyful manner with a smile or a laugh, and we would have all been happy laughing and moved on. Exactly. Okay, so there's one. Here we go, Leila. Leila says, I would have asked my nail tech to tell her nail tech, right? To tell my nail tech, or the client being loud, that she's too loud and to tone it down, please. Not exact words, but in the kindest, most pleasant way. Okay, so we have a couple persons here who would have probably taken another route in the situation, which is sometimes considered to be the rescuer. So the third role in the drama triangle is the rescuer or the hero, right? So the rescuer says, let me help you, right? And this role involves stepping in to save someone else, oftentimes without being asked. So in this instance, that may not be the case. But while it might seem helpful, it can also prevent others from solving their own problems and lead to a dependency dynamic. Now, let me just clarify that now, Damon and Lance, because I'm not saying, Damon and Layla, because I'm not saying that you guys were thinking about stepping into rescue mode. But I think generally speaking, in order to avoid drama, we sometimes help others out. But if you see that becomes like a habit where you're consistently helping others out and putting yourself on the back burner, not letting your needs be expressed, right? Then that may mean you have become now the hero or the rescuer. And when you get into the habit of becoming the person that has to fix things, right? It may actually be indicating that you have a need to be needed. And so it may seem helpful, but then if it is repeated behavior, like if it's behavior that you're consistently displaying, it may prevent other people from solving their own problems. So why am I talking about this? I'm talking about this because the drama triangle is something that we live in and experience every single day. And in order for us to escape the triangle or step out of it, we really have to lean into a lot of self-awareness. Now, in that moment, when that woman became a persecutor or a villain, when she became a villain, shouting at me across the spa, right? She not only created discomfort for me, but she created discomfort for everybody else. So she was not accessing awareness about how that response was going to affect others in the room. She was so triggered. She was only able to tap into what was closest to her. So that's another thing I want you guys to pay attention to. When you are encountering situations with other people, what is your default behavior? Because I bet you any money that if you were to survey people in her life, any money, if you were to survey people in this woman's life, there would be other instances where she would be the persecutor or the villain. Because what starts to happen is the behavior that you display when you are triggered is oftentimes the behavior that you are displaying in other areas of your life. So if you notice that, your victim stance is, for me, I'm so oppressed. Oh my gosh, I've tried and it's just not working. You feel oppressed, you feel helpless, you feel powerless, you feel at the effect of everybody else. Victims believe they have no choice. You believe you have no choice but to suffer, and you often blame your circumstances on other people or external factors. So you find yourself being very passive aggressive. You're talking about the thing. So here is how I could have become victim in this situation. I get shouted at across the spa. I'm gonna keep repeating it because it helps me to cope. I get shouted at across the spa. And I'm just like, oh my God, poor me. I could tell the lady that I was talking to, somebody just shouted after me a while ago. I have to be quiet because I don't want to make anybody else upset. That's victim mode, right? I could have said to my nail tech, oh my God, Lord, she couldn't do it better than that. Why she have to act that way? I just feel so bad. And why, I could have done that. That would have been playing up the victim, right? Oh my gosh, you hear how loud she shouted after me? Lord, that was so embarrassing. Look how she makes everybody else feel bad. That's just, Lord, and we're just here, the spa, and we're just, like I could have done that. That would have been me stepping into victim mode, after being persecuted by this person. It could also have equaled me stepping into full-time rescuer mode, right? And me in rescue mode would have looked like, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry, getting loud back, you know, talking to the person on the phone. Hold on a moment, I have made an error. I have to correct this. And then announcing to everybody, no, it's okay, guys. I'm so sorry. I apologize if I was and then just becoming, the hero, saving everybody from not just me, but saving everybody from the persecutor who has just now made all of us feel extraordinarily uncomfortable in the situation. Right? So that's the 3 points on the drama triangle: victim, villain, hero, or victim, rescuer, persecutor. Okay? And as you're going through life, you may be experiencing real life things that are related to the drama triangle, right? Maybe you are approaching things in a confrontational and blaming manner, and it ends up creating a tense environment where you are. Sometimes you may be experiencing this at work, right? Where you are the person that has to fix everything. And so because you're fixing it, the way you choose to fix it is to tell people about themselves. You're not doing your work right. I just have to talk straight. You ever hear people that say that? I just have to talk straight. No, I don't mince my words. Jamaican people in particular, we don't mince our words, right? So there are ways in which you could be stepping into being a persecutor, right? Because you're trying to fix things, but you're not doing it in a self-aware way. All right? You could be acting out as a villain in other relationships as well, right? You could be feeling, like you're chastised and embarrassed when you're in an argument with a loved one, or your loved one is not behaving in a way that makes you feel good. And so you start to express yourself in a poor me, oh my gosh, woe is me. And maybe you don't express yourself that way to the person, but everybody else that you talk to. You're telling them how this person treating you and how it making you feel bad. And no matter what you're trying to do, it's just like, oh my God, I've done this and I've done that. And it's not, and you're not necessarily feeling like you're whining, because sometimes you aren't. But it becomes this passive aggressive thing that you are repeatedly talking about over and over again. And so what you're actually becoming is a victim in the situation, because you have this repetitive behavior that deep down inside, you're actually hoping that you're able to fix it. But also deep down inside, you like being on the drama triangle. You like being the victim in the situation. You like making the other person the villain or the persecutor. You like to actually say that you're not getting what you need from this person, or this person is mistreating you. You kind of like feeling like they're bad and I'm good and poor me. You get what I'm saying, guys? So you have to be careful of how you are showing up when people trigger you. Let's hear what we have. A couple of persons making comments here on Instagram, my YouTubers, just so that you can hear what they're saying. Some person said, I'm in fact a natural rescuer. Here we go. Damon is saying he's a natural rescuer. So he 100% agree. His downfall is a hero complex. So some persons, unfortunately, have their own personal issues walking around with. And as a result of that, he goes off trying to rescue and fix them. And based on his career in the military, there is a lot of lacking of emotional awareness, which I can understand, because you are taught to be a very specific way when you're in the military. We also have Kimoi saying our behavior when triggered shows up in other areas of our lives. Absolutely. It is insightful, because your trigger response is really a habitual behavior that you are not observing, that you're displaying in other areas of your life. Let me say that again. Your trigger response is habitual behavior that you do not realize is showing up in other areas of your life. right? And so, when we talk about the things, we have to talk about breaking the cycle of the things. So I come here with my tea and my drama, literally, right? Because, guys, we can break the cycle and it requires practice. And I'll tell you how I practiced this yesterday. The lady starts to shout at me from across the hall, literally shout at me. I feel everybody's eyes piercing into my skin, looking at me, right? Some feel shame, okay? And I'm in a bit of a tricky situation because I'm doing my nails. I'm talking on this phone to this video call to this woman that is trying to set up some help and support for me, right? She's in Houston, I'm in Jamaica. We're working it out. And I'm in this shameful experience. The first thing I do is I adjust my behavior because I'm like, okay, I want to step out of this trigger situation that I'm in. Is I've triggered her and she's in her trigger response and is creating drama. I am not interested in being in drama, especially in a public place. So the first thing I do is I feel the feelings and I feel them and they don't feel good. And then I see the thoughts. There were several thoughts. There were like the thought of, but see, who is this woman? Who she think she be? There was that thought. There was a thought of, you know what? I'm going to show her up. I'm going to make her realize how her crosses make everybody else feel. But I had that thought. You know how you're in the situation, right? You're in the argument or you're in the drama and you're having these thoughts. You want to respond, you're having the thoughts about how you want to respond. I was having those thoughts. And then I started to pay attention to the thought that was coming more and more frequently. The thought that was coming more and more frequently was the one that was, I think, a hero, but it sounded like, in my head, it sounded like, okay, Stacey, you're going to give it a few moments to pass because everybody's uncomfortable right now. So give it a few moments, let the music play and get everybody kind of back into talking mode. And then as you are leaving, because your nail's going to finish before hers, as you are leaving, you're going to say out loud, I really want to thank you for alerting me to, the situation I was creating in the room where others may have also felt uncomfortable. But I just want to give you some support in how you went about it, because that was really not the best way to talk to a person in a situation where you're in public and open. You could have come to me and give her the examples of how she could have done it, right? So in my head, I kept playing that over and over again. And the reason why I think that behavior is what came up in my mind, like, okay, Stacey, this is a teaching moment. You can go over there and start coaching her. That's what came up in my head, But here what happened now. In my wisdom of 40 plus years, I also realized that while I may be able to step into a space of self-awareness, I had the thought that if this woman's natural response to me speaking too much while she's in the spot, if that's her natural response to shout across the room at me, then I don't know what I could be dealing with if I decide that I'm going to step into a coaching moment. She never asked me to coach her, and I was not going to invite her into coaching because possibly she would have expected me to retaliate and decided to go back into her persecutor mode, and it would have just created more drama. You see what I'm saying? Now, all of this that is going on in my mind, is happening while I'm having the conversation with this woman about my summer camp, my STEM summer camp. And so I have to, in that moment, make some decisions. Okay? I have to decide, who am I going to be? Am I going to be the person that allows this to pass and just make it a learning moment for myself? Am I going to be the person that steps into victim mode and start talking about her with the person that is at my, at my disposal, whether the person I'm on the phone with or my nail tech or whatever, right? Or am I going to be the coach and go over there and coach her and be the hero, right? Or the rescuer? I'm literally, so what that requires, guys, is self-awareness. So the first thing that you have to do to break the cycle is you have to recognize the situation that you're in and who you're dealing with. So recognize who you are being in that moment. Recognize the role that you may be playing in the drama triangle, right? So the first key is recognition or stepping into that awareness. Okay? Then now, once you have recognized, then you have to kind of interrupt the thought pattern, because if I had stuck with the thoughts that were saying, cuss her off, just tell her off, just tell her say she's being loud too, right? And she's creating drama, and she don't need to create the drama because you're a decent person, and she come in here with her market behavior and she don't have to. Okay, you see, I'm still suffering, girl. Let me tell you. Let me just sip some tea right now. And get back to center. Right. So I could have followed those thoughts, right? But I recognize those thoughts were the first ones to come. The first thoughts to come were after I felt the shame and the kind of feel bad. The next thing was cuss her off. And I was just going down that. And before I opened my mouth, I think what saved me is because I was on this phone call. So before I opened my mouth, I had to identify that I was about to be in this pattern. And so I wasn't able in that moment to physically remove myself. So I had to interrupt the thought. So once you recognize where you are, once you recognize the role you're playing, and then you're recognizing the thoughts that you're having, then your next job is to interrupt the thought pattern, right? If you can move away from the situation, move away from the situation. If you can take a few deep breaths, take a few deep breaths. If you can change the topic of the conversation, change the topic of the conversation, but try to interrupt the thought pattern that is going on inside your head. Sometimes I have to sing a song. Sometimes I have to shake my head, literally, physically shake my head, right? So you have to recognize and interrupt. Then the third thing now is shift your perspective. Try to see the situation that you're in from an outside perspective, or consider what role the other person is playing, right? When you do that, what that does is it can sometimes diffuse the emotional charge that you have inside and lead to a more compassionate interaction. So guys, in that moment where I was feeling all the feelings and I was observing all the thoughts and seeing myself getting into this spiral of negative thinking, I had to interrupt the cycle of the thoughts. I did that by busying myself with the person that I was on the phone with, and trying to get my, figure out, okay, how do I address this with myself? So I started to deal with myself. I stepped out of the situation with this woman and just started to deal with myself. And then while I was doing that, I started to think through in my mind, what exactly is it that she's experiencing, or other people probably experiencing that? Okay, can I understand? Yeah, I can understand what was going on. Can I find compassion in that moment? Yeah, I suppose I can find compassion, even though she was being dark. I can find compassion in the moment of it, right? So I started to work on shifting my perspective. I started to work on, looking around the room and thinking to myself, oh, they're not staring at you, thinking, yeah, cuss her off. They're staring at you thinking, oh gosh, she didn't have to go about it that way. I just started to treat my mind with different thoughts. And then in real life, when you're not dealing with strangers like I was, you want to establish some healthy boundaries. So if this situation that you're in has multiple people that you're interacting with, decide what you are willing to accept in your interactions and what you're not willing to accept. Communicate your boundaries clearly and kindly. So in this situation, because I didn't know what I was going to further trigger if I were to talk with her directly, my best path was to talk to Mile Nail Tech and say, hey, if you see me in my conversations, because I'm always on meetings and stuff like that when I'm at the nail tech, if you see me in conversations and maybe if I'm getting too loud, just nudge me a little bit, right? Because I want to prevent a situation like what occurred earlier to happen again. I don't want to make anybody else in the salon uncomfortable. So just nudge me directly next time. Right? And so I am going to establish a boundary in a different kind of way. which maybe had I been nudged by my nail tech, maybe I would have caught it earlier and this woman would not have ended up in her trigger and shouting at me across the spa. I don't know what would have happened. But the bottom line is, in terms of what I'm sharing, is there are ways that you can establish boundaries even in situations where it's with a stranger. Sometimes you establish a boundary with yourself. So if there's nobody, if you're in a cuss-off situation or you're in an argumentative situation and it's not somebody that you know, right? You can establish boundaries with the person by saying, you know what, I'm going to step away from this because I don't want to get us in any more problems. And you can physically remove yourself. Or you can say, you know, boy, I would prefer that you not speak to me that way, and establish some kind of boundary in that instance, depending on the situation. So if you're in a space where you recognize that there's an opportunity for you to communicate boundaries after the fact, because you may be in a trigger situation that trying to establish boundaries in the trigger only going to create more problems, then that's what you want to do. Okay? You want to establish boundaries, but do so in a way that's not going to perpetuate the drama triangle. All right? So guys, I hope that today's conversation was definitely one that will help you when you're trying to break free from the drama triangle. It's not about just avoiding conflict. It's about creating a more positive and constructive and authentic way of relating to others, right? And again, just to remind you what the drama triangle is. The drama triangle is when you are in a trigger situation or just everyday life and you are responding to things in one of these three ways. You're either responding as a victim, where your stance is poor me, you feel oppressed, you feel helpless, you feel powerless, and you believe you have no choice but to suffer, and you often blame your circumstances on other people or external factors. Maybe you're not a victim, maybe you are a hero or a rescuer. You go into this let me help you mode, and you have a need to be needed. And so what this role involves is stepping in to save other people all the time. Oftentimes the people then don't even want to be saved, but you're stepping in to save people without being asked. And so while it may be helpful, you could be preventing other people from solving their own problems, and it could lead to a dependency dynamic. And then the third role that you could step into when you're on the drama triangle is the persecutor. The persecutor is the person that insists that it's your fault. You are the person that is going to criticize others. You're going to blame others. You're going to act like you're superior or like you know better, but you're acting like you know better to make the other person feel bad. And so you are enforcing rules. Sometimes it's just your own rules where you make up. You're enforcing rules, or you're using guilt to make other people feel bad so that you can feel like you are in control of a situation. And what happens is you oftentimes become the antagonist, and you'll even say it. Yeah, I know I'm the bad guy, right? So that's the persecutor or the villain in the situation. So those are the three roles that you could be playing on the drama triangle. And the way that you want to avoid that or to break the cycle, right? Because we're not trying to avoid conflict. We're trying to break the negative cycle that the drama triangle puts you in. In order to break the cycle, you have to rise above the situation. The first letter in rise is R. You have to recognize which role are you playing in the drama triangle? Recognize who you're dealing with in the drama triangle, right? Recognize, be aware so that you can change the pattern. The second thing in the RISE formula is to interrupt. Once you've identified the role that you're playing, or you've identified the role that the other person is playing, you've recognized the situation, right? It might mean physically removing yourself, or it might mean taking a few deep breaths, taking, a moment to change the topic, or just shifting how you're thinking, right? And then S in the RISE formula is you want to shift your perspective. Look at the situation from an outsider's perspective. Consider what role the other person is playing and think about how you can shift your way of being so that you are no longer entertaining their drama. This understanding can actually diffuse the emotional charge that you may be feeling and can lead to more compassionate interactions. And then, lastly, in the RISE approach, you want to establish some clear boundaries. Establish some healthy boundaries. Decide what you're willing to accept in your interactions and what you're not. And then you want to communicate these boundaries clearly and kindly. I saw earlier where different persons were saying that they would have communicated in a way that was as kind as possible, right? And so I think it's so important that we think about how we are communicating. Okay, how you are communicating something can make all the difference in how people experience a situation, how people experience your drama, because oftentimes it is your drama that you are bringing people into. Okay, so thank you again, guys, for joining. I got so many wonderful comments and interaction on with my Instagram family. Thank you so much. If you're watching the replay, make sure that you stay tuned for tea time. I'm here every Saturday morning between 8 and 9:30. And I hope that you have a wonderful Saturday and enjoy an amazing week. Take care, everybody. Thanks so much for joining. Take care.